How a pattern change will bring active weather back to our area. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo on this Friday afternoon. Hope things have been going well for you. Coming up, we're going to talk about what's happening on this Friday, tracking some showers and storms and some hot weather, and then we're going to get into the forecast for next week and this surge of tropical moisture coming out of South America. I'll have the latest details on that, and obviously what's also happening in the Eastern Pacific. As we get started, thank you so much for liking the video. Looking at our broad enhanced satellite imagery here. Got some lightning out there. A couple of spots that I want to get to right now that are going to see some active weather as we get through the remainder of this Friday afternoon. Once again, we do have a few showers and storms developing over portions of the northwest Bahamas. Right now, we're really seeing a pretty good concentration of those storms over Andros and Andros Town to near New Providence and Nassau. Again, thunderstorms are developing in the northwest Bahamas again. Just like the last couple of days, they're relatively intense. They've got some decent lightning, and more storms are trying to continue to drift off of the east coast of Florida and move into the northwest side of the Bahamas. We'll take a look at the composite radar here. I'm going to take off the lightning data, and we're going to watch these storms develop, and they've done so fairly quickly here, just really through the mid-afternoon hours of this Friday here. I've got the loop fairly long in time, so let me knock that back down to just the last couple of hours. And again, you can see this storm flare up right over Andros right now. Certainly New Providence could see a storm or two pass across that area near the Nassau area. Eleuthera could be into play as well. And then again, back up to Grand Bahama, Abaco, Walker's Key. You can see at least some lighter rain developing there, but can't rule out even a little bit more lightning trying to get going. So northwest Bahamas, we'll see more active weather again into the afternoon hours for us here. Let's switch on over to what's happening in Jamaica, and that is a relatively quiet forecast. Again, I promise you that the enhanced satellite imagery is looping right now, but we have not had any rain on the board for this area, and it continues to be relatively hot and dry. Temperatures on this Friday afternoon have been able to climb into the lower 90s in most spots. And again, I've mentioned it for my friends in Jamaica. It's a hot, relatively dry forecast the next couple of days. That's going to change later next week. But for places like Kingston, Portmore, and Spanish Town, and over towards Mandeville and Maypen, and on the northwest sides, Montego Bay and Negril, still going to see generally dry conditions. And it's also been relatively dry through portions of the Dominican Republic as well. We've seen a few isolated showers develop on the far eastern side of the island there near the Punta Cana area. And again, that's just been over the last couple of hours. So La Romana, south of Samana, Punta Cana, east of Santo Domingo, an isolated storm has developed. But generally speaking, it's been a little bit drier there. Once again, let us choose an area that continues to be inundated in rain, and it is Puerto Rico. We continue to see these showers and storms flare up, and they're going to be pretty widespread on this Friday afternoon, especially in interior locations where we continue to see some excessive rainfall here. Now, at this point in time, there are no flash flood warnings, but again, we have cropped up additional heavy rain through portions of this area. Let's switch over here to the live radar out of Puerto Rico. So I'm going to pop that on the screen here as this is looping, and that is going to come on, and you're going to see some of that rain. We'll keep the lightning on there. How about that? So we'll get the live radar to come on here real quick. I am going to take off temperatures. Again, it might just take a second. I think I actually need to do this, and we'll bring on the live radar out of the southeast sides of the island. So you can see again this concentration of heavy rain on the western sides, on over towards Mayaguez and San Sebastian, as far north as Aguadilla, just south of the Isabela area there. Just very heavy rain. Another cluster of showers and storms west of San Juan at the present time. Vega Baja, on over towards Vega Alta there. And again, just take a look at a couple of the different scans. It's about the same scenario, but again, heavy rain is still concentrated over Puerto Rico, and they don't need any more of that heavier rain. We've seen a couple of showers near Fajardo and then off towards Esperanza and Culebra there towards Vieques. There's St. Croix, and it's been a little more spotty as you get into the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands on this Friday. But again, what else is new? Puerto Rico is wet again on this Friday. And it is another area that's going to be plagued with some potentially heavy rainfall as we get into later next week. On over towards the ABC Islands. And again, promise you this is looping up, but at this point in time, we continue to mainly be dry through this area. The atmosphere is a lot drier, at least at this point in time across the islands. Temperatures coming on this Friday afternoon, mainly in the upper 80s to the lower 90s. Antigua over around 88 for a daytime high. Montserrat 86. St. Kitts and Nevis hit 90 for a brief time. Same thing for St. Martin. We get the idea. And again, just mainly dry conditions. I'll switch over to the visible satellite imagery. It's a little bit easier to see where there's at least a little bit of cloud coverage here on this Friday afternoon. And again, the opportunity for an isolated shower is there. We might have a couple of showers over places like Dominica and Martinique. And again, these are some areas that could use some rain as the moisture has been limited there, but certainly some cloud coverage in that area. Switch over to the infrared imagery. We don't pick it up as much there. So again, better to use the visible on this Friday afternoon to show you just a little bit of moisture still streaming in. We still have the lightning data on there, so if we catch a strike or two, that'll pop up. Barbados, again, mainly hot, dry forecast. Now we get into St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad, and Tobago, especially down towards Trinidad. I mentioned this in the last couple of videos. We're going to get a little bit more moisture trying to move over the island and at least give us some passing showers. And that has happened in portions of the islands today. And that looks to be the general trend over the next couple of days as well. More moisture being able to stream northward, especially for Trinidad and Tobago, to provide them with a better chance for showers. You can see right there, we had a little bit of a lightning just on the west side of the island for a very brief time. But again, it just shows you that the pattern is beginning to change, get a little bit more rain in that area. For my friends in the ABC Islands, it's a pretty hot, dry forecast, upper 80s to right around 90 at this point in time. No threat for any lightning. The storms continue again to still at this point in time move west. The pattern change is how this moisture coming out of South America is going to be moving into the Caribbean rather than trying to slip into the Eastern Pacific, where again we still have an area of potential development. There's still two spots right here. The first one, the farther east one, is down to a 30% chance of development, but there's another spot here, and I'll show you how the models have changed and really actually undercutting the chance for some actual development there. But there's still a ton of moisture, and that has been able to creep into portions of Honduras and Nicaragua for today. But look, generally speaking, in our areas, it is outrageously hot today. San Ignacio has hit 108. San Pedro Sula has hit 106. This is dangerous heat. Even Belize City hit the mid 90s earlier today. You want to talk about just some outrageous temperatures right now through portions of Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Now, hopefully some of this moisture, which is on the Pacific coast, will move north and east over the weekend, trying to at least give us some cloud coverage and hopefully some cooling rain. We're not going to get any of that for Cancun and Cozumel. It's warm there, lower 90s. And our friends in Georgetown and West End in the Cayman Islands, right around 90 degrees as well. All right, friends, next thing I want to do is we're going to get right into what the rain is going to look like over the next 5 days. And then we're going to get into this surge of tropical moisture and how that is going to play out. As we're doing so, thank you so much for liking the video. If you're not a subscriber here to Meteo Mundo and you've been looking for your local forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home. Go ahead and click that subscribe button right now. So the first thing we'll do is we'll break down the weekend forecast into early next week. We'll go island by island with your rain chances, and then I'm going to get into the broader kind of show of what's going to be happening with all this tropical moisture coming in. So we'll loop this up over the next several days. And we'll go ahead and start in Jamaica. Let's do that. So again, for my friends in Jamaica, you're going to see very limited rain chances here over the next several days. Now, that will begin to change again by mid next week. But for the next 5 days through Tuesday, I would expect very limited opportunities for rain, which means the heat, the humidity is going to continue to be a very big story across the island. There's not much more additional rain for the Turks and Caicos and portions of Hispaniola until maybe Sunday into Monday, Tuesday, just upping rain chances a bit. But again, this is another area that could be inundated in heavier rain later next week. So I'm not concerned, if you will, that we're going to be drying out. In essence, that's actually a good thing for the Turks and the Caicos and portions of Hispaniola. Just for the Turks and Caicos, I want you to notice here, model does try and bring on just a little bit of moisture kind of coming off of Cuba and slipping it into the area. Now look, Puerto Rico, oh my goodness, guys, can we get rid of the rain finally? I mean, I do believe that the best chance for showers are the remainder of this Friday, but it's still not going to be completely dry for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands over the weekend. All right, there's not a ton of rain in the forecast, except for where we see these storms just try and line up inland. All right, and I got to tell you this. There could be a much higher chance of rain in inland Puerto Rico compared to the coastline. San Juan, compared to Utialto, as just an example, should be much lower rain chance along the northern coast. It really looks like the inland locations, some of the higher terrain, is trying to get the showers here. Now, the entire island will have the opportunity for some very heavy rain later next week. Leeward Islands, again, very spotty showers in Guila, St. Bartholomew, St. Kitts and Nevis, Ceiba, St. Martin, Barbuda, Antigua, Montserrat, Guadalupe, Dominica, again, areas that could use some rain, slightly better moisture content trying to come in early next week. And this is not with the system I'm going to be talking about. We're just picking up a little bit more moisture with our easterlies here for Martinique and St. Lucia and Barbados. But again, you're talking about a 20% chance at best for most islands in any one given day. St. Vincent the Grenadines, Grenada, I think it all plays out about the same until you get as far south as Trinidad and Tobago, where again, there is more moisture trying to slip up to the north and to the west and to try and provide places like Trinidad and Tobago at least a few more showers, all right? Trying to cool things off a little bit, trying to get some much needed rain in this area. It's still going to be relatively spotty, but it's good to see more green in this area. So I've been able to increase the rain chance a little bit, but again, it's not like it's going to be a widespread heavy rain for everyone across the island. ABC Islands will be on the verge of some heavier rain as we get into Tuesday, and it really just depends on how this plume of moisture moves north, but certainly Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao could be in the crosshairs for some of that heavier rain. And you can see, even as I get into Tuesday, we start to see the pattern change, we start to see the wind shift, and we start to see the moisture begin to move through the southern Caribbean. As far as this system here, again, take a look at what the model is showing compared to yesterday. No wrapped up system, more of an elongated trough. That's one reason why the Hurricane Center dropped this chance down to 30%. We'll see how the interaction of these two and some drier air to the north spills out, but maybe not as good of a chance to get our first named system in the Pacific as we thought about 24 to 48 hours ago. Again, we can try and lift some of this moisture back up through El Salvador and Guatemala into Belize and portions of Honduras, trying to get a few more showers to move into these desperately hot areas. And you can see that on Sunday and into Monday. So at least there's a chance for some rain if that moisture can sneak back north and east for our friends in Belize, San Ignacio, Belize City, over towards Roatan. Okay, for my friends in the Northwest Bahamas, I'm going to switch over to the high resolution model here that we can use in this part of the world. And again, as I'm doing so, thanks so much for hitting that like button. I appreciate you very much. So what I wanted to talk about here is, again, we've had some really nasty storms in the Northwest Bahamas, a lot of lightning with this. How is this going to play out over the weekend? Well, again, we have some storms near the Andros, New Providence area right now. So what I expect to see is this, a couple more opportunities for some storms. Now, again, for tonight, we'll probably feign the rain relatively quickly. As we get into tomorrow, once again, a flare-up, a cluster of storms coming off of the Florida East Coast will mainly impact places like Grand Bahama and Walker's Key and maybe Abaco. Then a secondary round comes in on Sunday morning, slightly farther off towards the south, and that's where we could see more of this activity coming in on Sunday afternoon. So the model goes out only that far, 48-hour model. I can switch over here and I'll extend this model back out again, the one that I can show you a little bit deeper into time. Let that ramp up and get you over the rest of your Sunday. But the bottom line is a few more rounds of isolated strong to severe storms for the Northwest Bahamas are in play. And yes, the lightning is going to continue to be a threat. So as we get into Sunday afternoon and evening, again, you can see the Northwest Bahamas continue to kind of be in the crosshairs for one more surge of some rain and maybe even some spotty showers early on Monday. The central Bahamas aren't expected to be nearly as much into play with this on Sunday. Arthurstown and Georgetown, again, there's a few storms off of Cuba moving off towards the east, towards the Turks and the Caicos. But again, Freeport, Lucaya, on over towards Walker's Key, Marsh Harbor. Those are the areas with the best concentration of storms, and still a few showers, if nothing else, for the Nassau area. So let's break this down. Jamaica, again, there's just not a lot of rain in the forecast, at least through Sunday. For the northwest Bahamas, again, we are seeing a few storms over Andros, but those should die down relatively quickly. Then just ramping up the chance a bit, 20% overall Saturday, but again, more concentrated in Grand Bahama and Walker's Key, and then a 30% chance on Sunday, and a little bit farther south towards Nassau. Turks and Caicos, not much. Dominican Republic, again, we don't mind the drier weather, up to a 30% chance on Sunday. Cayman Islands, not a lot of rain. Belize City, cross your fingers. You start to see some of that moisture from the Pacific move in from southwest to northeast, and Cancun and Cozumel remain dry. Other areas, Puerto Rico, about a 40% chance for rain every day, but again, interior locations, more like 60 or 70. San Juan, Ponce, coastal regions, more like 20, 30. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, about a 20 to 30% chance each the next few days. Dominica, about a 20% chance. Barbados, not much, up to a 20% chance on Saturday and Sunday. Again, a little bit of improvement for Trinidad and Tobago, 30% chance Saturday and Sunday. Dry for the most part in the ABC Islands over the next 3 days, but things will be changing very, very quickly. Okay, so now let's get into our tropical discussion. All right, obviously yesterday, the big situation was that big, large plume of moisture that's going to move out of portions of Central America and how this is going to play out. So I'm going to let this model run, and there's a few things to talk about here. The first thing is that the model has been very consistent driving this moisture through the Central Caribbean as we get into about Wednesday of next week, okay? And it's still very clear to see that hasn't changed, all right? There's still not a lot of a wind field associated with this, and I'll show you that coming up. If there is a potential that this might try and wrap up, it looks like that might happen as it gets north of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and east of the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. So what we're really looking at, friends, at least for right now, is a lot of moisture coming in that could provide us some very heavy rainfall. So you're looking at the GFS model. I'm going to show you the European model as well. So again, as we get into, let's see, today is the 17th, so this is going to be Wednesday. As we get into Wednesday, you can start to see that moisture move up. And again, it could be very, very heavy, a several 100-mile swath of heavy rain, all right? That more than likely will also come with some surf and sea conditions we'll have to talk about as well. You can see that moving through the Turks and Caicos, other areas. Again, it could easily be as far west as Jamaica and as far east as portions of the Leeward Islands. As a matter of fact, the European model is slightly farther west, but you can see again, as it moves away, we might start to see just a little bit of a twist as it gets closer to Bermuda. But at least in the Caribbean, it does look to be a very sloppy, wet system, but nothing with a lot of concentration as far as winds or wrapping up into anything tropical, at least as of now. And the Hurricane Center still, at this point in time, is not talking about any system over the next 7 days. And the things that I've seen today, again, lead me to believe that if we do see something, it might be right about there. And it could still wrap up in a hurry once it moves north of our islands. But you can again see the winds will start off here on Tuesday, late Monday to Tuesday. Again, big wind field, right? Maybe some 20 and 30 knot winds. And then just a little bit of a twist here. So the interesting thing about it is we'll have to wait and see how pinhole that is. Now notice it goes right over the island. Right, on the GFS model, Hispaniola is an extremely mountainous island. So if there was any low-level circulation trying to develop and it actually went over Hispaniola, that would rip it apart. And as I've mentioned, you can see as we get towards Bermuda, maybe we start to see something, could even start to go cold chord by then, wrapping up into a mid-latitude cyclone. But you get the idea. And I'll let this loop one more time for you here. And I'll zoom in just a little bit as well so we have a nice view of this spot. So ABC Islands, very blustery conditions as this moisture lifts up towards the north. Again, as we get towards, let's say, Wednesday, Thursday, could be some winds to talk about for the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and then on over towards the Turks and Caicos and the Leeward Islands, and it gets out of the way. I do want to go back over to the reflectivity, and the reason why I want to do that, and then we'll look at the vorticity, is that this may not be the only plume of this rich moisture that comes in. So the first scenario here, I guess I got to loop it up here. Give me just 1 second. All right, might take 1 second for this to get back on. Let me just double check I got everything on here. There we go. Okay, great. So let's go back in time, and you can see this first surge of moisture coming in Tuesday, Wednesday, right? And that moves away. But on the heels of that, look at this. Yet another surge of moisture about 9 days out. So we might be into a pattern, generally speaking, through the Caribbean, where now all of this developing in northern South America is going to move more in a north fashion rather than gets pushed off towards the west. It could bring tremendously heavy rounds of rain to the greater Antilles overall, portions of the lesser Antilles, the ABC Islands. It's something we'll keep an eye on. I'm going to keep a very close eye on it, but this may not be the only action, if you will, of this moisture moving north into these areas. And again, it is still feast or famine. Our western zones are desperate for a lot of that rain. Even the Bahamas still desperate for the rain, and portions of the lesser Antilles. But for right now, that concentration of moisture is in the areas that I just mentioned. We'll switch over to that vorticity product. Again, I want to take a look at that spin in the atmosphere. I showed it to you yesterday. I'm going to show it to you again right now. So again, this product will let us see if there is truly spin at the lower levels of the atmosphere as this moisture begins to surge to the north. So we can see some of that. And again, I do expect it to be an elongated system, almost along a surface trough, or what we call a shear axis. So we'll see if there could be any rotation out of this. I'll zoom out just a little bit. And again, the model is going through its process. I have it going out about 10 days, so it takes a lot of that. But you can see, again, there is at least some broad turn on the GFS model. Now, the GFS actually does paint a very weak low by about day 9. I'm right up about here, about 1,005 millibar low. European model does not show that. And again, you can just see that spin, that twist coming through Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. So interesting to see. Also just wanted to note, because I showed you this yesterday, this is a much weaker system now off the GFS model in the East Pacific. Again, there may be an opportunity where we actually don't have our first name storm because of the dry air that's playing in. Now, I mentioned the difference in the models as far as direction. Take a look at this. This is the European model rainfall totals. It's just clear to see that swath of heaviest moisture is farther west. Here's our friends in Jamaica, all right? You're looking at several more inches of rain on the European model farther west compared to the GFS model, which is farther east. Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles in this scenario would have less rain. The Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Eastern Cuba, and maybe the Turks and Caicos would have more from the European model. So both models, by the way, are obviously picking up on this huge moisture surge, but the details and the finite details of its exact location and how widespread that rain is going to be is still something to snuff out. But over the next few days, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But again, starting late Tuesday and Wednesday, that's when I expect this moisture surge to be moving into the area. You know I got you covered here at Meteo Mundo. You know you can find us through all social media, Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, mymeteomundo@gmail.com. And again, if you have a specific question about the forecast, please feel free to drop it in the comments section below. While you're there, if you could do me a favor, click the like button on this video right now. And again, if you've been looking for the latest forecast and you think you're getting something out of what you just saw, subscribe right here to Meteo Mundo. I want to welcome all of our new subscribers with a big thank you. Friends, have a great rest of your Friday. You know I'll keep you updated. I will see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.